So I thought I'd just throw a quick video up on YouTube here. I'm working on the Toyota pickup. As you can see, I've got it up on my race stands, or what do you call it? Race ramps, yeah. These things are super handy. Jack the car up. These are the 12-inch ones. And I pulled the transmission out so I can put a new clutch and pressure plate on. But you can kind of see the state of things. I was just test fitting the LC engineering headers the other day. But I wanted to, so it's coming along as you can see here. So I wanted to make a little video just to touch on a couple points regarding the transmission. So as far as, and you can kind of see here how dirty it is. So I'm gonna clean that up and take the bell housing off here. So a couple things I wanted to comment on. One, in order to get the transmission off, you remove the bolts. You start with the bolts at the U-joint over here, take those off, and then the drive shaft will slip out. No fluid, there's a seal at the back of the transmission, but no seal, no transmission fluid will come pouring out or anything like that. And then the first thing you gotta do is remove the shift linkage here. There's 6 little bolts on top. If you watch some of the other videos, they point out, you know, be careful of these little these little metal washers that are in there. And you do want to do that. The other thing you want to do is be real careful about getting dirt down into this shift linkage mechanism in the tail of the transmission. So what I did, as you can see, is I stuffed some rags down in here, put tape all over it, and then while I was working, I put a microfiber cloth. But if you look at the fill plug, it's at about it's a little below, let me see, it's a little bit below where the tail shaft is, where the output shaft is. So you can see the gearbox is full of oil up to about here, but when you pull out the drive shaft, you know, it's up here, and there's a seal in the back. So as long as you keep the transmission, you know, more or less level while you're working, any gear oil is not going to come, you know, flooding out. As far as removing it, there's other videos, but you know the basic routine. Take off the 17mm bolts that go to the rear of the block, and then you got to remove the starter. You got to take off the slave cylinder for the clutch. You got a few miscellaneous 14mm bolts, and yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass to get to, but if you work, you know, your way around. The worst of them are these guys here at the top. I used a kind of a breaker bar to free them, and then I was able to switch back to my main socket. Let me see what else. Oh, there's one, when this, the arm for the slave cylinder is in, there's a bolt right here, I think it is. You can kind of see it's the bolt. I can't remember if it was the one above, or no, I guess it was the one below. That thing is a real pain in the ass to get out. I stripped the head on mine, but I was able to use a, I guess it was a 14 or a 17mm, whatever the size was, met wrench socket. Which, if you're not familiar with met wrench, check out their sockets, because they are really good for extracting rounded bolts, because they grab, you know, on the sides of the bolt. So when you get into a situation where you've stripped out the head of a bolt and it's, you know, the only thing standing between you and getting your transmission off, met wrench will save the day. Let me see, what else can I mention here? Oh, as far as actually getting it out, you can see I'm just using the car up, or the truck up on the race ramps. That gives me enough room to work with. I use my second floor jack over there to kind of, you know, lift up the transmission a little bit, take some strain off of it. You do need to be careful when you loosen all the bolts for this one here. It sits on the on, I guess what you would call the rear kind of cross member subframe, you know, thing that goes across the frame there. So it bolts on the top up here and bolts in through here. So when you remove this, even if this is still hooked to the, when this is hooked to the transmission still, it kind of wants to, do this number and come off the truck. So you want to make sure you have something supporting the transmission. You're going to have to take off this cross beam thing that's under the truck too. Now, as far as actually getting the transmission off the car, the way I've always done it since I used to work on Datsun 510s was I just crawl. I don't have a transmission jack. And at my dad's house, we had one. I tried to use it a few times. I found it to be just kind of a pain in the ass. So I personally don't ever use transmission jacks. I just get under there and kind of shimmy the transmission back. Sometimes I'll put one of these race ramps under the forward part of the bell housing to kind of catch it once I get the input shaft out of the clutch disc and pressure plate assembly, and let it fall on that. And then I kind of just crawl under there and I use my knees kind of in a cradling position on my back, and I just kind of slowly lower the transmission down. So I'm kind of used to doing that. I remember once when I was a kid, I had a souped up Datsun 510, and one summer I broke 3 pressure plates in one summer by chirping second gear and at full throttle. And so I used to just swap the pressure plate out while the transmission for the car was resting on my chest. And I kind of knew what, I would lie on my back, and I knew what wrenches I needed, and I would kind of reach over and, grab this one and work, slip the new pressure plate up, bolt it on, and do the whole job with the transmission resting on my chest. And then I would heave it up and get the input shaft in and, bolt everything back. So I got pretty good at doing it. So when it came to the truck here, I just figured, well, it's a little heavier than a Datsun transmission, but not by much. And so I just kind of, slowly wrestled it down on the ground. But you can do it. Like I say, I just wanted to, for anyone who's tackling this job or thinking about doing it, it's not that hard as long as you have a lot of, fancy tools with different angles and things for getting into different places. I think this is a W55 transmission because I have a 2-wheel drive truck. So, not sure what else to say, but I'm about to pull the bell housing off, clean it up in the sink. And then I'm going to probably contact Marlin Crawler, or maybe go online and see if I can find a new front seal. I might put that in, and I might put in a new little rear seal back here. Although surprisingly, the transmission's in really great condition. I can see why these Toyota pickup trucks with the 22 RE are so well regarded, because it's sure a heck of a good design. And so far, everything I've pulled apart on this truck, differential, motor, you name it, everything's in great condition. I'm just going through to clean it up and make it a little bit more, roadworthy and learn about it. So, okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, if you have any comments or questions about transmissions for the Toyota pickup, feel free to use the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching.